Welcome everyone to my YouTube channel. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to change the oil filter and put new oil into my Honda CB750. This is a 1973. This process should be the same for all 69 through 1978 single overhead cam Honda CB750s. I've got my oil pan underneath already. I've got my synthetic Mobil 1 motor oil. Racing 4T 10 weight 40. You can use 10 weight 40 or 20 weight 50. 20 weight 50 is more for warmer climates. I'm up here in northern Indiana, lower Michigan, so for me the 1040 will be sufficient. I believe what's in it right now actually is the 2050. I've got my oil filter right here, which is a K&N KN401 part there. I've got my 17mm wrench, oil drain filters, oil pan, and what I'm going to do is actually I'll have to remove my 17mm wrench, the oil plug underneath here, which you can see right there. So I'm going to get on that, remove that, come around to the right side of the bike, take the dipstick out, and then I'm going to take the bolt off there for the oil drain, and then I'm going to come around to the front of the bike and I'm going to pull off the oil filter covering, oil filter housing. There's a spring in there. Remove the old oil filter, put the new filter in after cleaning up the housing, and reattach it. Okay, so first things first, I've got my 17mm ratchet on my oil drain plug. Loosen that up. Oil pan under there, right? And voila. Voila, oil. So we'll let that drain. Okay, so now on this side of the bike, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull my dipstick. I'll set that down for now. I need to go ahead and remove the side covering and loosen up that bolt to drain the oil out of the oil reservoir. Okay, so conveniently, get the side cover off, and going down to the oil drain pan on this, and the bolt on it, it's actually 17mm as well. So that's pretty nice and convenient. So I can get my wrench on there and break that loose, unscrew it to drain the oil, and I will get my oil funnel up in here so that when it starts to drain, it drains right down in my oil pan and not all over my engine and pipes. Difficult operation to do one-handed, as you can see. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so as you can see, I got most of the old oil out of it. There's some on the left inside there, a little bit in the tube, but tilted the bike to the side to get most of it out. That was an experience, but didn't tip it over, so all's well and ends well. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the 17mm bolt on here now that I've got it all drained out of here. So I'll just go ahead and attach that bolt right back into place. Just like that. And we'll snug it up on there. Just snug it, not overly tight. Don't want to strip it out or have it too hard to take off next time. So that piece of it's done. What we'll do is we'll take off the front housing now for the oil filter and replace the oil filter. Okay, needless to say, I don't have a socket big enough, so I had to use a adjustable crescent wrench to get on the nut on the oil filter. And as you can see, I've loosened it up, and now I'm just going to finish taking it off so you can see the inside of the oil filter housing, spring seal. Ow. Pinched me. Alright, there we go. So I pulled that off, and pipes are in the way. There we go. And you can see right up against the frame there is what screws the oil filter into the housing. And then I've got my oil filter here. I've got my used filthy oil filter that I'm going to replace. I need to clean the inside of this out. Here's my bolt, and there should be a spring in the mix here too. Let's see. Let's go fishing for that bad boy. I don't know. I'll find the spring. Okay, got it all cleaned up. You can see my oil filter covering all wiped down nice and clean. Found my spring. We got the bolt all wiped down. Even wiped down the oil attachment area for the filter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, I've got the bottom drain plug still undone, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick the bike over 15 to 20 times just to get any pockets of oil out of it and to make sure that it's all fully drained. Then what I'll do is I'll put the oil drain plug back in, put the oil filter back in it, fill it up with oil, and get it back up and running. Alright, now I'm done with all the shaking and biking down there. I'm going to get on the bolt underneath here, get that tightened back up in place. My wrench back on there. And I'm going to tighten it on there. Again, don't over tighten it, just snug. A lot of people tend to over tighten those. And then we'll come around and I'm going to go ahead and get the new oil filter out of the packaging, and we'll get that put back in place with the oil filter housing and put that back on. Okay, so one of the important things that came in my pack with the oil filter is actually a new rubber seal. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that seal off and get the new rubber seal placed down in there so I have a good, nice, secure seal. There's actually two seals in this packaging. You can see a smaller seal as well, which actually is going to go around the bolt that tightens it down. So not only do you have the seal around the rim, but you also have the seal for the bolt as well. So I'll replace all those, get that put back together, show you what it looks like. So one last key point I want to make is before you put those seals back around the bolt and the housing, put a little bit of your oil on it. Like I said, I'm using 1040 Racing 4T Mobile 1 full synthetic oil. So I'm going to get a little bit of that around the seals and everything so that they can seal properly. So just use that oil, put it around the seal, put it in place, and it'll help secure it into its location. Alright, as you can see, I've got the bolt in there, the filter, the spring, the seals. I had to push that bolt up in there to lock in, but it's ready to go to install on the front of the bike. Alright, so now we'll put the filter housing back in place. The spring, seal, and everything. Alright, now it's all tightened down and back in the position. Oil filter housing all secure. Okay, so according to the manual, this is a 3-quart system. So I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to add my 3 quarts of Mobil 1 Racing 4T 10W40. As you can see on here, 3-way protection for engine, transmission, wet clutch, primary, advanced full synthetic 4-cycle motor cycle oil. So this should be good stuff. I'm going to add it into the tank, fill it up to where the dipstick has the top line of it, and we're going to attempt to start it. And what you want to do when you start it is you want to turn the key on. You probably should kick the kick starter a few times, get the oil pumping through it, then turn the key on, wait for the oil light to go off, at which point once the oil light goes off, then you want to try starting it and let it run at 1100 to 1500 RPMs to get it running through the system and everything appropriately. So I'll add the oil and let's test it out. Okay, so what we're going to do now, turn the key on. We have the oil light on. So before we let it idle at 1500 RPM, I'm going to get it started up and let it run some oil through it so that the oil light goes off before doing that. So I'll let it run for 1 to 2 minutes past the oil light turning off at the 1100, 1500 RPMs for a couple minutes. As you can see, I got it running. The oil light is off. So I'm going to try to get it back up and running again and get it idling for a little bit. Alright, so I've got it running now. About 1500 RPM. Just going to let it run for 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. I'll check the oil dipstick and I'll top off the oil fluid. Oil change would be complete. Thank you for watching.